Hey guys, okay, so this is going to be a class that shows you how to put together an ad like this. Sometimes, actually most of the time that I get projects for banners or whatever, they kind of come out of nowhere. So I'll just be, it'll be like a regular, like a Wednesday or something, and all of a sudden I'll get an email from a design client who is works with other design clients. So they will say to me, hey, we've got this deadline. We need to have this ad ready for this company tomorrow or in 2 days. This is what we have to work with. You need to put this picture. Here's a picture of the product, and you need to put everything else together, kind of fill in the blanks. So let's pretend for a moment we have this as our, this could be a banner. This could be a slideshow image. This could be pretty much anything. In this case, this would be just a like a slideshow for a website, for like the Estee Lauder website. This is, by the way, this is completely just something I made up. It's not. This isn't an actual ad for Estee Lauder. I just wanted to put something together. So let's say I get an email and they say, okay, it has to say your skin deserves this on the top. It has to have this product. They want to have something that looks kind of moisture. Has kind of a, whatever. It goes with the whole L'Oreal look. So one of the first things that I would do, let's say that I'm just going to start this over. So if you want to look, I'll just break this down real quick and show you all the layers before I close this down. So I'm taking everything off, lens flares, little details, all these sparklers, a little bit of shading, some different images just for texture. Here's a gradient, some background image here. The woman. Okay, let's get rid of her. And then this is still, yeah, okay. Then we get rid of all this stuff. Here's the product that's in a folder by itself. Just delete that. And then here's the background. Okay, so let's just take this all. I'm going to hit Shift and click all the layers, and then I'm going to hit Control G. Oops, I can't do that with the background. So let me deselect the background and hit Control G. There we go. Okay, now let's say that this is going to be our size. So let's see what the size is. Image size. We'll change this to pixels because when you're working in web, you don't ever use inches. You always use pixels. So they asked for 1,152 by 442. So those are the dimensions of the project. When you're starting this, you can just go up to File, New, and then you create those dimensions, okay? But we already have that. So we have, here would be the image that they sent us of the product. So they would say, okay, well, here's the product image, and then they would send us a picture of like the model, and they would say, okay, and here's the model's image. Obviously, we're going to have to do something with this background and cut this model out. So the first thing that I would do is just put it all in the banner. So let's just drag all that in there so we have it. I'm going to drag this guy up into this tab, and it's going to be way too big. Look at how big that is. And when you're working with professional product images, they're going to be at a high resolution because they have those same product images for all of their print stuff, and they'll have 300 DPI resolution images. So I'm going to put this here like that, and for now I'm just going to leave that, and I'll turn that off. And now let's bring in the woman. Okay, I'm going to drag her up to the tab and drag her down into the thing. And again, she is way too big, so I'm just going to hit Control T, grab the handle and bring her down so she fits into our banner. Okay, so there we go. So we'll start kind of putting this together. All right, here she is. Here's this. And we can try to start making this. Worst case scenario, we've got this file and we can just grab it again. I'm not going to turn this into a smart object because I want to keep working with it, okay? So I'm going to just put this here. This, I'm not going to make it, like I wouldn't make it this small and then drop it, because if I wanted to make it bigger again, then it would be all pixelated. So I'm going to kind of just work with it being as big as possible. So I'll just kind of leave it like that, and I'll hit enter. And let's make her, this is all just, most of this is just, there's no right or wrong. You're just seeing what kind of works. So what size would she be on here? Let's move this over. I'm going to hit F. Oops. I'm going to hit F and move her over here a little bit. Okay. Now, one of the things I'll do, let's say that I don't know anything about L'Oreal, which I really don't. One of the first things I would do would just be to go over to the internets and let's see, I would just do a search for, actually, sorry, it's Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder, I would do a search for Estee Lauder, Google search images, and I would just look at their typical ads. So, you know, what do? They don't really have a color scheme. One of the things that they do, and one of the things you want to do when you're designing a banner, is to think about the rule of thirds, okay? So the rule of thirds is something that you use in photography and art and all kinds of things. And that means that you don't want to center anything in the middle. It looks very bizarre to have things center weighted, okay? So what you try to do is to break up things into thirds. So you would do, here's some guides. Like this, more or less. Sorry, this should be rule of thirds. Now, I haven't really talked about guides. Whenever you have, if you go to View, Rulers, you'll get these rulers on the side that'll help you to kind of measure things. You can drag here down to the top corner. This is slightly, it's not really advanced, but it's something that you don't necessarily need to worry too much about. But you can, if you click on the ruler over here, you can drag that over and just have some guides to work with. So the rule of thirds basically means that you want for your centers of attention to fall along one of these key lines, okay? And the main area is going to intersect with these lines. So if you want to find out where to put your model, you'll be pretty safe to put her over here on this line and this eye right here on this center point. So that works pretty well. So it basically means that you're breaking this up into thirds instead of just like, you know, having something in the center. And that's the way that you know, films also will break. This kind of looks roughly like the dimensions for a film, and you'll notice that also with films that they break things up into thirds. Anyway, okay, so I just want to start moving forward with this. Okay, we've got this guy here. I'm going to focus on cutting our model out. Now, we have to decide what the background color is going to be, and actually, you would probably just do this on a white background, but that's not very interesting. So I wanted to do this on a colored background. And typically when I'm picking a color, I'll try to pick a color out of one of the pictures. So something probably out of here would be a good background color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sample here, and I'm going to find a good background color. Let's see. And I can change this later if I need to. Let's just use that. And sorry for my dogs there in the background. Let's just add this. I'm not going back and editing this, and you know, I apologize for that, but you're going to see all the little mistakes that I make too. But, you know, I prefer it to be real. Okay, so I've got this guy. Now, if I want to, one of the things that I'll do if I have a glass container is instead of putting this as a regular blending mode, like a normal blending mode, I'll change this to multiply. Okay, so multiply. And now this looks like you can see through the glass to the background. Now the problem here obviously is that it looks way too dark. So what we can do to the background behind this is to start making that white. And this is a little trick that, you know, I've been doing for a long time. I'm just going to paint, since this is multiply, this is going to be, all the dark parts of this image are going to show up on this background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting white behind it. Oops. I'm going to go up to my brush, and you can see this hardness. I'm going to take down the hardness so it's a very soft brush, and I'm going to bump up the opacity. And you might need to go back and watch this again. This is a little more advanced. Okay, so I'm drawing on the layer under this. So this is multiplied, and this is just a regular layer. So I'm just going to paint white on that layer, and as you can see, now it starts looking like it's part of, like it's actually sitting there. Okay, and I can blur that. I can, I'll just go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And I'll probably edit that later. In fact, I'm sure I'll edit that later. Okay, so we've got that, and now we want to work with our woman here, our model. Okay, so I'm going to hit F, spacebar, and zoom in. There we go. Okay, the main problem that you run into when you're cutting out a model like this is her hair. And the hair always causes problems, okay? Now you don't necessarily want to have all of this hair like messed up and everything like this, you know, you don't necessarily need all of this, but one of the main things that makes it look like a model is actually in front of the background is having just a little bit, like making sure all these hairs show up. Now there's a couple of different ways to do that. One is just to try and cut everything out, which is it would be virtually impossible to get in here. Let me hit Control plus. Look at all these little details. It would be impossible with a brush to go in and select all those hairs. I mean, not impossible, but trust me, you don't want to do that. So what are the options here? One thing that I do is there's an option in Photoshop that allows you to change the colors, to select a color and change that selected color. So what I want to try and do first is say, okay, what if we can just change this background color to match this, this color that we have here. So I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments, and Replace Color. Okay, and let's see if we can do that. I'm going to select here. Just going to start selecting on the image. And if you hit Shift, it will allow you to keep selecting. So I'm going to take this image, this color, select over here, and it doesn't allow me to do that, of course. What did I do? All right, well, I'm just going to try to match it the best way I can. Does that let me do it? Doing it live, folks. All right, here we go. I'm just going to do it by myself, okay? I'm just going to match this color. It's a little lighter. There we go, getting pretty close. Saturation. Now this doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be pretty close. Now you can see the problem already, that it's turning our model somewhat blue here. So that might work for, let's see. What I'm mainly concerned about is this hair, okay? So let's see what we can do to just get these hairs here on a background that's similar to this color. I think that's pretty good. Okay. Now the problem that I did was I didn't make a copy of this. So let me make a copy of this real quick. I'm going to do that again. Image, Adjustment, Replace Color. There we go. Let me select here. I don't know why it's not letting me select there. One thing you can do, oh, there we go. Nope. I'm gonna copy the numbers here. So I'm just gonna copy the color number so I can just write that in. So I'll just go back up to layer, again, adjustments. You'll be pros at this in a second. Replace color. Okay, so select that. Well, let's just do it like this. Okay. I'm just going to match it here. So let's get this as close as we can get. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. There we go. Okay. I want to try and make sure that this color is coming through here at the top without doing too much here. Now, if I wanted to, I could create two separate layers, but I don't want to do that right now. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, now we've got two different images. One is our original, and one is this blue background. So what we can do is start editing out actually, I'm going to delete, I'm going to inverse the alpha channel. So this is all invisible. And then I'm going to start painting white over the parts where of her face here. So here we go. So I'm just painting this, this part of the image back because her face looks normal and it doesn't have all the green parts in it. So as you can see, now she is on top of this background. Okay, so you see that? Now let's go ahead and just get rid of a lot of this area over here. I'm going to just start painting this out on this layer. I'm going to start painting this side out so it all kind of fades together. There we go. See? Now you can see that she's on a background, she's on a different background, and you can also see these hairs. Okay. Now we're going to have to come back and play with this a little more, but you see that? Now let's add a little more of a brown. The nice thing is on this image, the brown in the background kind of matches her hair. So if we start, we don't have to add back on the alpha channel here 100%. We can add back, let's say 25%. So we can just start, you know, clicking on that. Oops, it's black. Clicking on that with the white brush. As you can see right here, the image is starting to come back. See on her arm, let's make this a little less feathered. Feathered just means that the brush blurs. Like this is not feathered, this is feathered. Well, I'll just show you here, okay? Let me show you the brush. I'll put it at 100%. This is feathered, okay? Now I'm going to take this and move it up to hardness to 100, and now that's what it looks like, okay? So I'm going to put the hardness at, you know, that's good, 77, whatever. And I'm just going to click on here. Okay, there we go. And I think that's starting to look better, okay? Now there's a bunch of other different ways to knock out and let me just get in here. Hitting Control plus and making sure that her arm, there we go. And this is all just working with the alpha channel. Sorry, I took that and put it on the other window. It's probably not helpful. Okay, so here you go. You have this image. You have this image where we replaced the background color, and then we took out, you know, we just blended it into the background, and then we put this layer on top of it that's just her face and everything, and let the just the hairs from the other image come across, but we took away all of that, the part of that image that has the green on it. Okay, are you with me so far? Okay, I'm going to hit Control minus and make this smaller again. Okay, and let's get rid of these. I can hit Control, Control, what am I doing here? View, window, view. There we go. What is that? Of course I would forget this. Control H. Okay, so Control H puts your guides back and takes them off. Control H, Control H. There we go. Now I don't love this background color, to be honest, but let's keep going a little bit. Okay, we've got our Estee Lauder here. We've got our white in the background. That's a little too blatant. So let's hit Control T, make this a little smaller. And you'll see that the white got cut off. When I drew this white in the background, let me hit the brush. Okay, new layer. I'm going to make the brush a little bigger so it's curly brackets right. And I'm just going to click on that. Boop. Oops. Okay, we need to make this, we need to feather this. So we're going to make the hardness 0. There we go. There we go. That looks better. All right. And we can take this down a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Okay, now at the bottom here, you'll notice that this just gets cut off. So you don't really notice it there. Here, actually, that looks better. And the original, I think this is a different image than I worked with originally. But let's just fade that out a little bit. So we're going to go on here and we're going to click on the alpha channel, and I'm going to just paint in with a nice feathered black. I'm going to paint that out just a little bit. Just paint that out just a little bit. There we go. Just clicking. Okay. Now we need to add our text at the top here. So let me make this a little smaller. I'm going to select both of these layers, hit Control T, make it a little smaller. I'm just very gradually making it smaller. You can see when I made the white smaller, there were areas where it got cut off. So I can just, maybe I'll just make that big. I don't necessarily need to change that. But it's starting, the white looks too much like a circle here. It looks too obvious. So let me bring that down. And then I'll make another layer under that. And maybe I'll blur that out, filter. This is all touchy-feely stuff, so it's just whatever feels right. Gaussian blur. There we go. Maybe bring this down a little bit. I'm starting to feel a little bit like Bob Ross, because it's always like, okay, we're going to make a happy little flow here. You know, there's going to be a little blur, and then we're going to move this over. All right, so I'm going to click. Now, the client also provided me with their font. So their font was Open Sans Light. Probably would never be Open Sans Light for an actual Estee Lauder commercial, but I thought it looked decent. So sorry, let me explain what I'm doing here. I grab the text tool, and I can drag it and just create a text box up here. And that'll be centered on the little glass thing here, the little container centered right here. So I'll just put your skin deserves it. Okay. And let's just adjust that, you know, just eyeballing it, seeing what it looks like, you know, just looking with your eye and saying, okay, what looks right, what looks wrong. Let's move this down a little bit, adjust it a little bit. Now the part where it says your skin deserves it can be white or it can be black. Now I actually preferred to have it white because I'm going to start putting in kind of sparklers and lens flares and making it look more exciting. The way it is right now is kind of boring. So if you saw this, it would be passable. You know, you could say, okay, that's I guess that's an okay ad, but it looks very flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my text again, and I'm going to change the color to white. Okay. And as it is right now, if you've got this white in the background, it's going to make it a little bit hard to read. So then I'll go and just bring that down a little bit. So just adjusting constantly, you know, kind of re-examining. Okay. Now another element we can put in here is a lens flare. And I knew I was going to do that anyway, so I'll go ahead and do that and start looking at how all the elements look together. So I'll create a new layer, just create a black, completely black layer, drag that across. Oops. I'm going to do that as a pixel layer, a raster layer. So I'll drag that across, and then I'll hit Filter, Render, Lens Flare. There we go. That's decent enough. Okay, so I'm going to hit on that layer. I'm going to turn that to Screen. Okay, and now we're starting to get somewhere. I'm going to put that over the white part here because it seems like that would be where the reflection happened. And I'm also going to take out the red here. So I'm going to click on Control-Shift-U, and that's going to turn this into a black and white image. That's just a quick trick. You can also just do desaturated image adjustments, hue saturation, and just desaturate it. Sorry, just, you know, desaturate it like that. But I hit Control-Shift-U as a very quick way to do that. Okay, now this is creating way too much. It's kind of lightening everything a little too much, so I'm going to go in and adjust this. Sorry. So I'm going to hit Control-L and get my levels. And I want to make this where it's black. So I mean, and this is something that's a little more advanced. So you can adjust the light and dark parts of your image, just like in the curves. So I'm going to hit Control-L. Here's the levels. And if you want to sample where your black is going to be, you can just click that and then click the part of your image that you want to be the darkest part of the image. So I click on that and I put it here. So that darkens it up a little bit. I can even bring up the dark a little more. But then you start getting into where you start taking away from this, the grays and everything. So, okay, we'll just leave it like that. And we can actually take this down a little bit. I know that probably some of you didn't follow what I just did. So let me do that real quick again. I just took this image, and because when if you remember when I created the lens flare, a lot of this was kind of gray. So if that's gray and you put this as a screen overlay, it's going to lighten all of this up because it's gray. It's not totally black. So all I wanted to do was isolate this part as being totally black so that we just get this little image here. Okay. All right. So we're starting to get there. Now you want to start texturing everything. Okay. You want to just make it more interesting to your eye. So one thing that I'll do is I'll create a new layer, and I will start by just making it black. There we go. Sorry, that's gray. Let's make it totally black. And I'll make that layer multiply layer. And what I'll start doing is I'll start painting on that layer, and I'll bring it down a little bit to, let's see, yeah, there we go. 25, that's enough. And then I'll start painting white onto that. So the white will make that part of it disappear. Make sure we are 0 hardness size. I'll make that a little bigger. And so there we go. You see over here, I'm just painting away some of that black. So I want your eye to focus on this part of the image, okay? So if you take that off, you'll see that this part becomes darker. And I'm just focusing on those areas. Okay. So basically, the only thing that I'm doing now is I'm just trying to make the image look more interesting, okay? Because it looks very boring just with, if you ever have just a pure color like this in the background, it doesn't always look that great. Now in the image that I actually had the woman facing the other way. So let me do that. When I'm going to click on both of these, I'm going to click on both of these layers. I'll click that one and then hit shift click that one. And now I can hit Control T to transform it. And there's one option here that is, I'll right click on that and it says flip horizontal. So that just means it flips it completely horizontally, so it'll be backwards. So flip horizontal, and now she's facing the other way. Okay. So now she's like that. I'm not sure why I did that, to be honest, but I want to make it like the one that I had. So here we go. It looks a little more, I guess, interesting with her facing away. Let's see. I'll just hit Control Z. I don't know. But I'll just, let's say that we have to turn her around anyway, just for the sake of doing it. Okay, flip horizontal. There we go. And then we run into a problem, of course, with this this line here. So let me just delete that. Let's make sure that, now whenever you're working with a model, make her a little smaller. Sure. You always want to frame her so that, you don't want to frame them down like this. You always want to frame them so that they have a nice profile image. So that sometimes means chopping off their heads. One of the problems that I see a lot of times with people taking pictures, doing photography, or doing whatever, is they think that they're supposed to put the person, in the center. And you really, if you're doing a close-up of somebody, you really should focus on their face and chop off their head if you need to. Just a little bit of their head, that's fine. But their face and neck should really be like what you're focusing on. So let's go ahead and just get rid of this line here. Whenever I make the brush smaller, I'm just hitting the curly brackets. Now we're going to run into a slight problem here because this is a little touchy. And let's just make this small. I think we can kind of get away with this. I don't think anybody's going to notice. The funny thing is, if you start working with this sort of ad, you'll really start noticing where they've photoshopped things. Okay. So I want to try and speed things up. You're starting to see how this is all created. One thing that I might also do is just do another lens flare coming from like over here. I don't know. It doesn't look that great. Just adding some interest. There you go. Just some little colors here and there. Now this background looks kind of boring. So one of the things that I did was go to... let's see, I went to freeimages.com and I did search for bouquet or bokeh, which is, if you're taking a picture with a narrow depth of field, everything in the background will be kind of these little circles. And so I just added a little element like that. It takes 2 seconds to add it. Let's see, downloads descending. Usually gets us a slightly better quality. Freeimages.com is a great place to find images like this. So I'll just click on this guy. I don't really need to make sure that there's no copyright because I'm only going to be using a little bit, but there is no copyright on this, so I'm cool. So I'll click on this and I'll get a much bigger version. See? And let me hit Shift C on this image. And then I'll bring it into my picture. So I'll do Control V. Sorry, let me make a new layer. Control V. That, of course, didn't work. Let's try that again. I'll do copy image. Control V. There we go. All right, so I'll do Control minus, minus, minus. Let's see, I'm just going to make this about as big as the image. And like everything, you just want to have a little bit of that texture, okay? I'm going to hit again Control Shift U to desaturate it. I don't want any of the colors from that. I just want this this texture. Of course, I'm going to add a layer mask on top of that. And I'm going to hit Control I to make the layer mask black. And then I'm just going to paint a little bit. I'm going to go to my brush and I'm going to start painting this into some of the areas here just to look like it's got a little more texture. So I don't want it to come up. I don't want the brush to be 100%. So I'm going to change its opacity to like 20. And if you click twice on, like if you start clicking on this, you'll see it becomes more and more white as you click. So I'm going to hit Control Z. Sorry, Control Alt Z. I'm going to make my brush bigger with the right curly brackets. And nothing that I'm not really using anything here that we haven't gone over. So everything that you're seeing is stuff that we've kind of covered in the class. The only thing I don't think we totally covered was the rulers here and the layers. Sorry, the levels. So that's looking pretty good. Just filling that in a little bit. You don't want to put it on top of the product. So I'm actually going to change this layer to overlay. So it blends. See, there you go. Overlay blends a little better. And I'm going to bring the whole thing down to about 50. So you can see this is just adding a little bit of detail. Now, I don't like it when we just have one big color in the background. So I kind of want to use this this goldish look, this goldish color. So I'm going to take that, and these are just, I mean, like I'll say this over and over again. These are just eyeballing it, looking at it and saying, what do I feel needs to change? What can I change to make it just look a little better? So I'm going to sample this color, and I'm going to take the brush again. I'm going to make it big, and I'm just going to paint a little bit of that orange color on top. Bring that down a little bit. The opacity, put a little over here. Okay. Now, all right, we're getting there. This product seems to be getting lost a little bit, so I'm going to bring it up and see if that looks any better, any darker. I think that our lens flare is kind of making it fade in. You can see how it's fading. It's losing some of that contrast. Now, if I wanted to, I could just take this whole image, copy it, put it on top, hit Control-Shift-U, make it black and white, and bring it down so that only the dark parts are showing. But that doesn't look a whole lot better anyway. I think the best thing is going to be just to making the lens flare a little smaller. So let's hit Control-T to make our lens flare a little smaller. I'm going to hit Control-L again, hit the black, sample, 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 there we go. Now if there's anything you don't understand, it's probably going to be that part. And I recommend you go back and check that out again. But let me just show you, when you're dealing with a lens flare, start that over again. A lens flare has to be on a black background. So I'm going to create a black layer again. Sorry, once again I did gray. And you can see some of the things that are on top of here. So let's go all the way to the top so it's completely black. Now when I do filter, lens flare, it creates this lens flare. You see all of these other colors here though? They can cause you some problems. Now I don't necessarily like the Photoshop lens flare. You can actually you can download lens flares off of websites and whatever. But so what I did was, instead of having this gray, I just wanted this all to be black, okay? So you can go, there's a couple of different options. You can go to Image, Adjustments, Curves, and you can do something similar, okay? You can make this black, like that, which basically means you're cutting off all of those grays and just like making taking the blacks and moving them further and further up the grayscale. And you can do that. Here's the opposite. If you do the opposite, you're going to make everything more and more grayscale. Okay. You're going to bring up the grays. So I'm just trying to take out these grays so that when you do, and I mean, sorry, the thing that I did, just because I'm accustomed to it, is instead of using curves, I use layers. And they're very similar. They do very similar things. Okay, so instead of using that, I just did it here. Okay, it does the same exact thing. Or you can just say, oh, I want to sample where the black is. So I'm going to sample here. And that right there is where the black is going to be from now on. Okay, and you really just need to go in and play with that, because if you're not catching the concept, it's hard to really, you just have to, it just kind of has to click at some point. So layer, hit the black over here. Okay, so now when I do screen, all you're going to see is that image. You're not going to see all this gray affecting the image. Okay, so there we are. Anyway, so that's what we did here. I think we're getting close. Now I want to add a little more. Over here is a little bit boring, so I'm going to just add, I'm going to make it look like there's kind of a light coming from this side. So I'm just going to put like a little white, new layer. Just going to put a white blurry image over here. So that just kind of makes it look like there's a light coming from there. I haven't really touched up the model. The actual image of the model was pretty good already, but a lot of times what you'll end up doing is enhancing their faces and enhancing taking out any blemishes, and that's kind of like the thing we did before. Okay, so what else can we do? Well, little sparkler, little what do you call them? Little sparkle lights are always good to put. I almost forgot those. So how do you do sparkle lights? Very simple. You just do a little circle, little white circle, and then you do outer glow. Or you can just blur the circle, but I'll just do, where is it? Outer glow. There we go. Make it bigger. There we go. There we are. There we are. Looks pretty good. So we just need a bunch of these. All right. So if you copy a layer that has an effect like this and shift click and click them both. Let's move one over a little bit. And make the heck. What the heck is what is that? Oh, I drew that on the same layer as the blur. Okay. So let me just redo that. I'll just get rid of that. If you don't understand, when I drew this layer over here, I didn't click a new layer to do the circle. So let me do that. Okay, so let me do a little circle, little white circle, and I'll do outer glow. There we go. Just kind of play with that until it looks right. Doesn't have to be perfect, but there you go. Just want to make it look like it's a little glowing light. All right, well, more or less. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, move it over here, make it smaller. And the idea is we just want to do a bunch of different sizes and shape, not shapes, but just different sizes of this. So let's just start dragging these around, making them smaller, bigger. Okay, now I'm going to select all these guys. E. I selected all those and then hit Control E. Now I'm going to hit Alt and drag and move these around. Control T, make it smaller. There we go. Okay. Hit Shift, select those both. Can hit Control E. Now those are all one file, one image. Move this around. Make the size different. Select those. Control E. Okay. So I'm just trying to make a bunch of different, I mean, I can take down the opacity on this, move that around. Okay, there we go. Hit Control, select all three of those, Control E. And so every time I'm doing that, I'm pretty much doubling what I'm doing. Doubling up. Here we go, select all those, E. I'm going to bring these down over here. There we go. All right, there we go. That looks pretty good. Make this smaller over here. There we go, make it. And you always want to make the product start to overlap with the image on the right, or whatever image. So if you can like kind of connect them somehow, you know, have these working their way over to her. Now we're missing one more key, well, a couple of more key elements, but one major element that was in the thing, and that is the water splashes. So how do we create the water? That's really actually pretty easy. So let's go back to free images. And if you look online, there's tons and tons of different resources for finding water splashes and, you know, all these different elements, fire, ice, whatever. So I'm going to do, I just happen to be using free images because it's a free resource, but you can go to dollar images, or you can go to, you know, just do a search, or go on Pinterest. I mean, there's, you know, one of the things I was going to recommend is going to my Pinterest board, and I'll put a link there, but you can find all sorts of splash water images you can download. But I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to put abstract water. Let's see if that gives us anything. See if I can find that water thing that I had. So here we go. These aren't really that great, but since they're free, you know, beggars can't be choosers. Next, there's nothing here that really just shows a water splash. That's kind of a water splash. Let's do this. Splash. Next. Well, you know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I just found that by going to water splash with Google. Yeah, okay. So images for water splash. And since this isn't an actual commercial image, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so water splash, let's just find where that is. You can use all these different images. They would all work pretty much. I just wanted to have water splooshing around to give it that kind of energy. Let's see. Put in a new tab. Put a new tab. Let's do this quickly. Try this one. Open a new tab. See if any of these don't have watermarks, just for demonstration purposes. Of course, my internet is very slow right now. This looks really good. I like this. Oh. Okay, well, these look pretty good. Let's try these. View image. Okay, we'll just use these for now. Copy image. There we go. Okay, and let's drop that in. Control V. There we have it. All right. So I'm just going to keep this image here the way it is, and I'm going to make another image. I'm going to just make a copy of that. And let's see. I'll make this a bit smaller so I can see all of my images there. Okay. Now, one thing you'll probably notice is these are all very blue. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this guy out. I'm going to take the lasso tool and just cut this out of here. So that's one of the uses for the lasso tool. So Control C, Control V. There we go. Okay, now I've got this. And what am I going to do to get rid of this white background? Okay, obviously I'm going to hit multiply. There we go. And I'm going to want this to look like it's coming around. Just going to, I think it's going to be better if I, there we go, let's see. Let's just see what looks right on here. You want to look like it's coming from around the back. So we're probably going to take this area here and put a little alpha channel so it looks like it's coming from behind there. I'm going to make that small, black. There we go. Oops. Bring the opacity up. There we go. And I'm going to transform this a little bit. Now there's a transform that I haven't really talked about, and that is like a liquefy transform. If you transform and you click on this guy right here, you can start transforming not just as a square, but you can take these little handles like a shape tool and start really kind of like you did with the liquefy tool. And you can just kind of like move this guy around like this. There we go, more or less. Okay. Now we need to get rid of that blue. So I'm going to hit Control U and desaturate it a little bit so it just looks a little more. Bring up the lightness a little bit. Saturation down. Maybe make it a little more green. Okay. That looks okay. It doesn't look great. Serves the purpose. Okay. Now I'm going to bring up this guy again, and I'm going to select this guy right here. You can also just do this on its own file, but copy V. There we go. Multiply. A smarter way to do this would probably be to change the colors at the same time so you know exactly what the colors are. Let's move this around. Have it so it's kind of doing this. Actually, no, let's put this backwards. Like this. There we go. Again, not perfect, but you get the point. Okay, there we go. And we're probably going to want to alpha channel out some of these other parts here. Let's kind of get rid of this. Hit Control T and then hit this guy again just to make it look like it's moving around. There we go. Doesn't look great, but okay. Now let's alpha channel that and make this less feathered. There we go. And Control U, saturation down, make it a little greener to mix, lightness. I'm going to mix Control U on this guy again, a little more green. All right. Now that's pretty close to what we have on the thing. One other thing that you can do is just start playing around with the I think I had more textures there. So you can even take this image again. Let's see, let's put this on top so you can see it. Oops. Delete layer mask. Put that normal. Okay. I'm going to bring up the darks. I want this to be a lot more contrasty, just because I want to add more texture. So just watch what I do. I'm going to hit Control L. I could also do this with curves, but I'm just going to do it with layers for right now. Bring up the darks. Okay. Now I'm going to blur that. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Okay. And I'm going to do overlay. And that's just going to add some more texture to this. Okay. See that? Now I don't want that to be on the whole image, so of course I'm going to go down again and make my brush larger, hardness down, size large. That's a little too big, so right curly brackets. Oops, too much. Okay, so I'm just going to paint that out a little bit. There we go, just adding a little bit of texture. We don't want that over our model. Okay, now on top of this, to bring it together a little bit more, I'm just going to add a adjustment layer for the curves, okay? And if you remember, one of the things I always do is I always kind of adjust the curves. So I'll take the darks and bring up the grays just a little bit. I'll play around with this just a little bit just to kind of see where I like it. I don't want to blow anything out. Let's go to our blues. I'll boost the blues and the darks, and then I'll bring it down in the yellows. That's just a personal preference. And then the reds, maybe I'll bring up the reds a little bit. Okay, there we go. Now, one thing I forgot to do is your skin deserves it, needs to be glowing. So I'm just going to go to that and click FX, outer glow. And just bring that up a little bit more. There you go. All right, so anyway, I think the most important thing is you're starting to see how these images come together. I could obviously sit here and work on this for another hour or whatever, but the thing that really kind of sells this is all the detail. All these little details, you know, you can add some more of these guys over here, bring them down to 20, you know, put more lens flares, make it more energetic. I don't know. But I think this will help you to understand how these images come together. I'm sorry it took so long. You know, I just wanted to show you exactly how I would do this. We're almost at an hour, but I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you sticking with this. And I think that if you've made it this far, it's really going to help you to start putting together your own Photoshop documents and start making a living as a Photoshop artist. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.